Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight, wherever you are in the US or in Canada. This is really exciting. This marks the launch of a new global McGill alumni community of accomplished leaders in technology, Generation McGill, or what we call MGen. So thanks for joining us. It's wonderful to have leading alumni in technology for this kickoff event, as well as McGill students joining us today, who will be the next generation of global leaders. It's also really special because this year also marks our 200th anniversary, so a big milestone for us. My name is Sherry Jones. I'm a McGill alum in Arts 1996, and I'm a founding member of MGen and a member of the McGill Regional Board out here on the West Coast. And I am here to introduce and kick off our topic for this evening on tech disruption and preparing future-ready leaders. And joining me today is also some other members of MGen who are also members of our Regional Advisory Board. And today's discussion will be moderated by our Dean of Engineering, Professor Jim Nicell, and two of our MGen founders, Martin Kahn and Amin Thawar. We will also be joined by distinguished alumna, Lorna Bornstein, and each of them are going to be bringing an important perspective to the conversation. The participants here today also speak to the core of MGen, a unique community that creates an intersection between McGill students, alumni with real-world tech experience, and also leaders in the university committee. And before I turn it over to Jim, who's going to moderate our discussion this evening, I'm delighted to introduce McGill's Principal and Vice Chancellor, Professor Susan Fortier. Professor Fortier graduated from McGill with a Bachelor of Science and a PhD in crystallography, and she has served as our Principal and Vice Chancellor since 2013. Prior to her appointment, Professor Fortier was President of Natural Sciences and Engineering Research of Canada and held positions as Vice Principal of Academic and Research at Queen's University, where she was Professor in the Department of Chemistry and in the School of Computing. Professor Fortier was appointed an Officer of the Order of Canada in 2018, and she's also an Officer of France's National Order of Merit and a Fellow of the American Association of the Advancement of Science. And she was named a specially elected Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada in 2015. Please join me in welcoming Principal Fortier for her recorded remarks now.
Thank you, Sherry. I'm delighted to take part in this event as we launch an exciting new alumni group. These days, we talk a lot about the importance of innovation in our society. Some people associate the word innovation with a new idea, or new product, or new approach. At McGill, we see innovation as central to everything we do. It needs to be an integral part of the culture of our university and an integral part of our curriculum. As we celebrate our bicentennial and begin our third century, we place a firm focus on innovation as a universal driver of progress and a powerful force for positive change and social inclusion. To foster this vision, we want to offer resources every step along the way, from the formation of an idea to its development and application. From the classroom to experiential learning opportunities, we use the tools necessary to prepare and encourage students to embrace technology and innovation, including social innovation, as a way of working and adapting to the challenges we face in the future. Of course, innovation itself requires innovation, which is why the Dobson Center at the Desautels Faculty of Management and the McGill Engine at the Faculty of Engineering constantly look for new ways to support and encourage students' innovation. It is also why 2 months ago we launched the McGill Innovation Fund. This fund will support the development of innovative initiatives as well as startups that emerge from the university. This new generation McGill group will bring together a community of accomplished alumni to act as an invaluable resources for our university, as volunteers, mentors, advisors, supporters, and ambassadors. I thank our speakers here today, who are all leaders in innovation and are therefore tremendous example of the way in which our community is having an impact across the globe. Thank you. Enjoy today's discussion. Thank you, Sherry. I'm delighted to take part in this event as we launch an exciting new alumni group. These days, we talk a lot about the importance of innovation in our society. Some people associate the word innovation with a new idea or new product or new approach. At McGill, we see innovation as central to everything we do. It needs to be an integral part of the culture of our university and an integral part of our curriculum. As we celebrate our bicentennial and begin our third century, we place a firm focus on innovation as a universal driver of progress and a powerful force for positive change and social inclusion. To foster this vision, we want to offer resources every step along the way, from the formation of an idea to its development and application. From the classroom to experiential learning opportunities, we use the tools necessary to prepare and encourage students to embrace technology and innovation, including social innovation, as a way of working and adapting to the challenges we face in the future. Of course, innovation itself requires innovation, which is why the Dobson Center at the Desautels Faculty of Management and the McGill Engine at the Faculty of Engineering constantly look for new ways to support and encourage students' innovation. It is also why 2 months ago we launched the McGill Innovation Fund. This fund will support the development of innovative initiatives as well as startups that emerge from the university. This new generation McGill group will bring together a community of accomplished alumni to act as an invaluable resources for our university, as volunteers, mentors, advisors, supporters, and ambassadors. I thank our speakers here today, who are all leaders in innovation and are therefore tremendous example of the way in which our community is having an impact across the globe. Thank you. Enjoy today's discussion.
Thank you, Principal Fortier, and thank you, Sherry, as well for your introduction. Welcome to everybody. I'm very, very happy to have so many people here with us this evening, and especially our very distinguished panel. As mentioned earlier, my name is Jim Nicell. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering. I've been here at McGill going on 30 years, actually, in about a month and a half, but as Dean now for about 9 years. And it's been just an incredible experience because of the incredible variety of people that I've managed to meet. But in those interactions that I've had, especially with business leaders and entrepreneurs, it's become very, very clear to me that everybody says there's not only a desire, but an absolute demand for a broad range of skills from our graduates. Now, what this means is that they're not only expected to acquire a very solid educational foundation in their discipline of choice, but they need a range of other skills that will be pivotally important to them as they launch their careers and make an impact in the world. You know, these include, for example, not only the ability to innovate through technology, and when I talk about innovation, it's really to realize their ideas in the real world. They need also complementary skills, things like emotional intelligence, human relations, leadership, continuous learning, business savvy, a drive for equity, diversity, inclusivity, a predisposition to collaborate across disciplines, to focus on change management, and many, many others. These kind of skills are not acquired sitting in a classroom setting. They're actually acquired more through an experiential setting, really acquired across the entire range of experiences that an educational environment can offer. So some examples of some key initiatives that we're undertaking here in the Faculty of Engineering include things like Engine, that Principal Fortier mentioned, which is our Engineering Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. which is focused on getting our students to develop their skills, to turn their ideas into real world innovations, really ultimately translating into very positive benefits for the world. Or our Empower initiative, which is focused on developing the leadership potential of our students through engaging them in real world immersive experiences. We also have our Engineering Inclusivity and Diversity and Equity Advancement, EIDEA for short. This initiative whose goal is not only to make our professions more inclusive, but to actually train our graduates to harness the benefits of diversity when it comes to designing their technologies and in the built world for maximum positive effect. And we also have our Enhanced Learning and Teaching and Engineering Initiative, ELATE, that strives to make the students the masters of their own learning, both now and well after they graduate. And finally, we have just recently launched a new undertaking called the Engineering for Humanity Initiative, which is specifically designed to bring graduate and undergraduate students and professors from engineering into direct conversation with their counterparts in the humanities and social sciences to collaborate on an equal footing. Our goal is to work across disciplines to address key problems and take advantage of important opportunities to advance society through the appropriate and judicious application of technology. Through these and many other initiatives that are always ongoing, these are all designed to enhance and complement our educational programs. And our goal is ultimately to prepare our students not only to be ready to begin their careers upon graduation, but to prepare them to continuously adapt to a changing world. We want them to be future ready, to thrive, and to make positive impacts wherever their careers might take them. So it's in this light that I welcome you all tonight as alumni and friends who are deeply involved in technological innovation and from whom we have a lot to learn and benefit. And of course, I welcome our panel so that we can share in their insights into how technology is disrupting science or society and business. I hope to hear more from them about how the skills today students will need to succeed in a world of unprecedented technological disruption. And I want to hear how our students can break into the tech industry. And furthermore, I want to hear how we can mobilize the community of McGill alumni, not only for their benefit, but for yours. So now let me introduce our panelists. There are three with us here this evening that we'll have a discussion with for the next half hour. First is Martin Kahn, BCom 93, who is the CFO of YouTube, reporting both Google Alphabet's corporate CFO and YouTube CEO. His team includes all strategy, finance, business operations, and commercial data analytics functions for YouTube globally, with teams in the San Francisco Bay Area, New York City, LA, London, and Singapore. Secondly, we have Amin Thawar, LLB MBA 98, who is the VP Global Compliance and Integrity at LinkedIn Corporation. Amin is responsible for strengthening and integrating a compliance function that keep pace with the company's rapid growth around the world, while staying true to the company's startup culture and founding values. His team is responsible for enterprise risk management and managing internal audit engagements. He's also the executive sponsor for LinkedIn's product and workplace efforts around disability, inclusion, and accessibility. And then finally, Lorna Bornstein, BCL LLB 92, is the CEO and founder of Grokr, the award-winning innovative engagement engine that powers life-changing outcomes for millions of employees in over 135 countries. A thought leader in workplace culture, she's a book author, a Forbes contributor, and is frequently featured in top publications and other media. She's recently named an International Business Times Social Capital CEO. So welcome to you all, and thanks for joining me this evening. Look forward to our conversation, see where it takes us. Well, I have so many questions, and we have so little time, but let's make the most of what we have. So I'm going to throw out the question. Maybe I'll ask Lorna first to respond to this. I want you to reflect back on your days at McGill. So exactly how do you think your McGill experience helped shape you or prepare you for the career that you undertook? And what motivated you to actually pursue a career in tech?
The best thing that ever happened to me at McGill was that I met my husband. Hands down, that was it. I don't know how it necessarily prepared me for work, but it prepared me for the world. So that was number one. And 28 years later, still together. So I would say that was hot. But, joking aside, I really think it was more the work that I did while I was at McGill. So I started working at a law firm in my first year at McGill part-time. And that work experience early on, and I did both a common law and a civil law degree, which exposed me to different types of ways of resolving disputes, which is pretty much what you do in law school. But it was interesting working at this law firm where the partners really taught me, you don't give up. I don't care if you couldn't find it. We have a client who wants to be able to figure out how to get out of this bankruptcy, and you're just going to work until you figure out a way. And so it was really working as a lawyer for these, really tough, top-notch lawyers that made me realize two things. One, I want to be a client, not a lawyer. And two, that I really wanted to work in tech. So I think it was what you were saying earlier, Jim, about those experiences more so than the classes that made the difference for me.
Oh, thank you. I've often commented to people around McGill that people rarely comment on that wonderful thermodynamics lecture they had back in undergrad. They actually point to other world life experiences that led them down a really interesting path. Amin, how about you?
Sure. Listen, I think that the thing that really stands out as I look back is that I was afforded the opportunity at McGill to have an interdisciplinary education. So, I really didn't know about the world of business until I entered business school at McGill. And so the fact that I was able to come out of McGill with both an understanding of the legal world, but also the business world made me, I think, a lot more agile. So that was the thing that really stands out for me. The second piece is really just that comparative approach to the law that we have at McGill University. It shows you that there are different ways to crack a nut, and it gives you an understanding of different frameworks that you can apply in the business world. And then, of course, the last thing is the relationships and the friendships that have been built at McGill. Those have served me throughout and have been great sources that have contributed to my professional development. So those are the things.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like you benefited from an incredibly diverse experience, both educationally, professionally, personally. It really sounds quite rich. Martin, how about you?
Yeah, variant on the theme perhaps, but with different perspectives. I think through McGill, I find I developed a real excitement for discovering new things. I was from Toronto, and many of the people I went to school with went to universities together in Ontario, and I followed my sister actually a year before me to McGill, being away from home, figuring things out, and then being exposed to international students, American students, different, obviously the culture of Montreal, bilingual city, just a very, very different environment. And it was quite exciting to be put in a new context and learn new things and find it was actually very helpful as a way to look at the world. I personally find that professional life is really all about serendipity. You're lucky, you're in the right place at the right time. But at the same time, I also believe that we engineer our serendipity by doing the right things along the way. You don't really know why they're the right things, but at some point in the future, you'll find that because, some of the things you did, you then are afforded an opportunity that you otherwise wouldn't have been. I don't think I would have taken my first job in Europe for a German automaker, which is what I did after McGill, worked there for a while, and then went to Spain with the same company to work on a project, having to learn German and Spanish on the way. After business school, sort of stumbled into consulting. I wouldn't have got the job had I not had this European experience, which made me different, and the perspectives that it afforded me looking at things differently. And I think the looking at things differently and seeing what's changing the world, I became very fascinated by the disruption and transformation of how we as people, as humans, communicate, inform, and entertain ourselves. And that's what I've been doing for the past 25 years, first in the consulting realm with clients in these spaces, and for the last 2 or 3 years for one of the companies that is really in the middle of this disruption and transformation of how we communicate, inform, and entertain ourselves. And being right in the middle of that is really what keeps me jumping out of bed every morning to try and change the world for a better way. And I really sort of saw the beginning of the world out there through my time at McGill.
No, thank you. You used a word there that I've heard from quite a few of our alumni. In fact, one Les Vidaz, who's one of the founders of Intel, one of our graduates, he entitled one of his presentations Serendipity, because he really commented on not only the serendipity of his experience at McGill, but being open to the serendipity of his career path as it unfolded in front of him. So, Martin, you actually commented about all the exciting technological transformations that are going on and being in the thick of it. Can you maybe start us off then on commenting on how technology has actually transformed society? I know that's a huge question, but I'd really like to also hear about whether those technologies themselves have actually created challenges for you in your business or your industry.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think we'll have a lot of different perspectives on that. I mean, I think, the industry that I have been working in and as an advisor and now at Google, YouTube, I mean, technology is right in the middle of the disruption and transformation. So the internet and broadband are easily the single biggest transformation to communications, information, and entertainment in the history of mankind. I remember a while back, I was doing an event or a series of events with the Bloomberg administration on the future of the media sector in New York City, and with a bunch of CEOs, and a Hollywood studio CEO told me at the time, this is about 2009, 2010, that broadband internet is the single least elastic entertainment product in the history of the world. And he called it an entertainment product, meaning that you raise the price of broadband, no one's going to cancel it. They will cancel their pay TV subscription or their DVD purchases at the time, or going to a theme park, but they would not cancel broadband. And I think what we find really exciting and transformational is what technology has enabled for the creative economy. So I've got two bosses, as a girl dad, that they're both on the top 20 most powerful women in the world, which is pretty amazing, that my girls get to grow up thinking that's normal. One of them, the CEO of YouTube, says her mission, her mantra is YouTube is about giving everyone a voice and showing them the world. And the salient point here is that creators today don't need permission to create. So the decisions about what users watch or what they listen to or what they read is no longer decided by some old folks sitting in an office building somewhere. We have over 2 billion viewers. We have millions and millions of creators in 100 plus countries. We paid them $30 billion over the last 3 years, establishing an entirely new creator ecosystem that's not based in Hollywood or based in New York City or based in London or based in Mumbai. It's based wherever people are who want to be creative. And this is an amazing development in the democratization of information and creativity. Mm-hmm. The challenge, of course, a couple of challenges. One challenge is how companies in the traditional ecosystem can embrace this rather than complain about it. News, entertainment, learning, education, music, et cetera, are now being done in very new and exciting ways. The second challenge, and maybe this is a lead into my fellow alum, Amin, and I'm sure Lorna has perspectives as well, is how we make this safe, how we make this a place that where there is some order, privacy, bullying, child safety. Those are all things that our companies spend a huge amount of time on, that pose challenges, but also opportunities, I would think, for students at McGill or the faculties at McGill to think about how to prepare the next generation of people who are setting this policy and regulatory and frameworks around this new creator economy.
Okay, no, thank you very much for that. I'd love to tell you someday the stories about my own kids and just how they benefited from YouTube. I'm just amazed at the creative capacity that is generated at a young age just by being exposed to whole new ways of thinking and doing. It's really quite stunning. Lorna, how about you? How do you think technology has transformed your world?
If I look at like the past 20 years, it was the transformation to, when I left HP, it was because this thing called the internet was coming along, and Lou Platt, who was our CEO at the time, wasn't doing anything about it, right? Mm-hmm. The whole company was focused in 1998 on Y2K compliance. I was on the global Y2K compliance committee, but I thought, no, this internet thing, we should be doing something. And it's really hard to innovate from within when you're, stuck with a huge incumbent massive business. And so I think if you look at what happened 20 years past, it was all about figuring out how you were going to do things over the internet, including commerce. My first job in the internet, I got hired to start an international business for a little known company no one had ever heard of called eBay. And, my joke that my mother was horrified that I was going to go work for a garage sale and give up a brilliant career. It worked out. But that was nascent. There was no commerce, back then. It was brand new. And so it's this figuring out like what the next big thing will be. And then, we talked about this, Jim, the risk taking and having that appetite for risk. And then it went from, the marketplace idea to having, bigger commerce to then having, greater usages, whether it was through telephony, whether it was through, changing things from mainframes out into the cloud. There's so much that has changed. But if I look at what's really exciting for the future, I think of all of that a little bit of the past, frankly. And what I see as the next big thing, it's all really about how is crypto going to evolve and what are the uses of blockchain going to be? It is so nascent. It's like 1992 in crypto years. Even most people need to understand the difference, for example, between like Bitcoin, which is a stored value, versus Ethereum, which is a programmable coin, which is different and it's increasingly stake-based. But just even understanding, people know like NFT, yes, a buzzword, but understanding how it works. And so I'm spending time playing Axie Infinity, which is, a game where you've got to figure out how to like get your initial, wallet, on MetaMask and then transfer some ETH into, they only use Ronin, which is their own currency, and Axie. But like, this is a whole new world. So if someone's saying to me, where should I be looking now? If you are not looking at trying to figure out what the hell is going to happen with crypto, that to me is the next really interesting area to really understand. And it's not even the Wild West yet because we don't have any rules. But it could transform economies as it has in El Salvador. But it will do so many things for the unbanked. And Jamie Dimon hates it because it could take down traditional banks. So it's really cool and interesting.
But is this? I hear from you that you see this as an opportunity more than a challenge. Is there something that's come about with all this amazing disruption that's going on around us that presents a significant challenge to your business itself? Like you even mentioned in Packard about, I guess, what could you call it, complacency in light of what was going on around? Is there a challenge that's being presented right now in the context of so many things changing so quickly, people don't actually know what to pursue next?
It's funny. I think living here, and I will speak for Martin and Ahmed on this because we're all going to agree, there's no complacency here. It's an embarrassment of riches. It's where do you want to focus? So I think it's more, what do you want to go learn about, figure out, and bet on? You can do plenty of bets. You can go bet on, flying cars, or, is that going to happen first, or is driverless cars going to happen? Like you can, what's your pleasure going to be? It can be about, green investments. Just choose. So I wouldn't say it's complacency, Jim. I really think that there is a lot. Just pick something that you think is going to be big, that excites you. Go and learn it. And if that one doesn't work out, make it the most beautiful belly flop anyone has ever seen. And you get credit for that at the next thing that you go and work at.
Okay. Amin, here's your chance to push back on Lorna if you think she got it wrong.
Look, there's no shortage of opportunity. She's absolutely correct. I do think that there is a little bit of complacency, and that's kind of put kind of the tech sector in the place that it is today in kind of the public eye, in that it didn't embrace all the other disciplines that could influence tech for the good. And so we're catching up. And so, as I think about, the future graduates of McGill and how they should be thinking about their disciplines, they should always be looking through the lens of technology in whatever they do. I think the beginning of your question, Dean Nysel, was, how has technology transformed your industry or society? I think that the tougher question to answer is like, what hasn't been transformed by society? I was just thinking, like, my water sprinklers are connected to Wi-Fi. Everything, like, I have a LiDAR vacuum cleaner. Like, everything I touch and see around me has some technological innovation associated with it. And I would be willing to bet that even Lorna, who operates in the health and wellness space, maybe 15 years ago wasn't thinking that there was a tech angle to health and wellness. And she's pivoted and figured out a way to use technology and its scalability to drive innovations in a different field that wouldn't be conventional. So I feel like there's plenty of opportunity, as Lorna mentions, but I think there are a lot of unintended consequences to the development of technology. And I think Martin alluded to that. And so that's where I think a multidisciplinary, multi-lens approach to how we build technology for the good of society really comes into play. And I think that's what makes this a much more inclusive industry, because we need all sorts of different people with different perspectives and diversity of thought to add to this industry and to society.
Okay, well, so I think you've kind of thrown a huge challenge out to everybody here, though. So I'll just say, in my own experience and the experience of my colleagues at McGill and many other universities, the massive, rapid growth of first of all, developments in science, a deeper understanding of the social consequences of the work that we're doing, the new technologies that seem to pop up all over the place that are suddenly part of a huge tool set. That leads to huge challenges for us from the point of view of what do we do to prepare our students to be really ready for a world which, honestly, 10 years, 15 years out may look nothing like what we're seeing today. And so I'm not going to ask you to tell us what our curriculum should be, but maybe if you could give us a clue about what are these skills, the sets of well, again, going back to skills, capabilities that our students need to graduate with so that they're ready to thrive in a world where everything is going to be changing on a constant basis. What needs to differentiate them from everybody else if they really want to succeed, particularly in the technological innovation sector?
I mean, I'll tell you what I'm seeing working really well with whether they're engineers, product managers, marketers, data analysts that we hire. I'll tell you who we're hiring and what their skill sets are. Number one, they're super curious. They know how to deal with data. They have empathy and understanding for the problem. So it's this sort of combination of having empathy for let's call them the user, whether that's a commercial or, whether it's a B2C or a B2B problem that they're solving for, but some empathy, right? Do I actually understand? Is it ethnography? How is it going to be used, right? Just basic, understanding of that. And do they know how to use data in order to drive results? And that to me is like, if they can be curious, have a piece of that and be able to really understand the problem and have the initiative to go and get it, start doing it. You come out of school and no one's going to look at you and go, oh, you're God's gift. Is this person trainable? Will they fit in our culture? Are they going to fit in? So I think if you can show that you're a quick learner, you take initiative, you like data, you drive results, I think that'll set you up extremely well. And the other thing is, I know for my son, for example, he got a CS degree from an American university. He did his own startup while he was in college. That is extremely common in the US. It is very uncommon for top-ranked schools for their graduates not to have either started their own startup while they were in school or been part of something like that while they're in school, and to show what they learned, what failed, and to have done multiple ones of them. So not to wait until your first job to show that you actually had insights and experience from things that you have done if you are interested in working in sort of more entrepreneurial settings.
Okay, thank you. Martin, how about you? What do you think?
I wish I could be provocative, but I'll agree with Lorna with everything you said. I think I will be provocative in a second, but I think intellectually curious, I like to say you can't teach that, but you can encourage that and see that as being something important. Always think about the user. You're absolutely right. That's what people do, is think about the user, and then, other things will follow. be fact-based, data-driven, as Lorna said. I also think be flexible. Something that I found important, ignore national borders and traditional captive markets. I think, remember a funny story about, I won't say which country, but a country in Europe where the national telco had, whatever it was, 60% market share, and they were annoyed that Apple wasn't giving them a special deal on the iPhone. And they're saying, we have 60% market share in our country. And, person from Apple said, you are 1% of our global market. So why would we give you a special deal when we have everyone else in the world that we, would set precedent for? And the other thing as well is not deferring to the middle-aged white guys like me as the authority. I'll be a little provocative here. If you look at the board of the various faculties around McGill, I look at the management faculty, obviously extremely successful individuals, but they seem to be relatively tenured. Canada focused, maybe New York City or London, from real estate, banking, corporate law, not a single person from big tech or startups or people who actually are the ones who are driving the future of the world. As Amin was saying, it's in everything, your vacuum cleaner, your sprinklers, the way that you're getting your mental health support through companies like Lorna's. It's not from someone who's managing a huge medical health authority. It's from a lot of other places, and that's what students need to learn, and that's what students need to, or faculties need to develop curriculum for. And I think one of the things that I think is interesting is there's maybe a bit of a misnomer that tech and digital is all about startups and entrepreneurs. That's of course not true. But tech disruption and transformation are touching all parts of our lives and all industries. So, all the traditional ones, a grocer like Loblaws, restaurants like Tim Hortons, banks like Scotiabank, and I'm just picking the Canadian ones, auto companies, real estate agents and investors, how we consume sports, universities, every single sector is being radically disrupted and transformed by technology and tech innovation, which means, as Amin was saying, it's multidisciplinary, and it's not just the engineering faculty or the management faculty, but the law faculty, public policy. How do you think about policy innovation? How do you think about look at the recent report that came out around Instagram and teenage girls in particular in that one. Mm-hmm. How do you think about how to treat people psychologically? How do you think about all sorts of things that, not just the consumption and distribution of music, but the creation of music is being disrupted. So the faculty of music, so I think the closer that McGill can connect itself and its students with the tech sector that's transforming everything, the better every faculty, every student will be prepared to be part of charting the future of the world. So being plugged into where tech innovation disruption is happening is essential. The US West Coast is one place, but as we all know, because we've spent a lot of time there with colleagues, China, India, Israel, other places like that. And then, of course, being seen in those places as a known brand for producing top talent, I think is a huge priority for McGill. I'm very excited to support that. I think our group got together because we had this wildly audacious goal of having McGill be seen in the same category as a Stanford or IIT in India or a Caltech or an MIT to make sure that McGill is in that community and that sector is part of everything McGill does.
Okay. Amin, how about adding more to that?
I have just a more practical, basic suggestion. I feel like one thing that as I look back on my McGill education, was that it was fairly siloed, right? Like if I was in the law faculty, I was in the law faculty. Never did I, except to beat the cold, did I walk through the engineering building on my way to law school. And so I think one thing that the university can encourage is really a cross-pollination of students and ideas, so that you can get that mashup and perspective from these different groups. Because I think more and more, because technology is just part and parcel of life, it's going to require entire society to participate. If we leave it up just to the engineers, there may be some unintended consequences to what they develop. And so I think that's the opportunity. And I think Martin also mentioned that, you do have to have a bigger perspective than just your locale. That said, Montreal is a hotbed for AI innovation, right? I would think that Montreal and McGill in particular should trade off of that reputation and build a steady pipeline of students that are dominating that profession. That's exactly how Stanford made it on the map. And you've got that recipe for success with the innovation that's already going on in the city of Montreal. And so I would encourage you guys to double down on it. We talked about the key trends and innovations in technology. I think big data and AI are going to create that next wave of giant innovation. And so McGill can be positioned to be a world leader in the space if it plays its cards right.
Okay. Challenge accepted. I think we can do that. And in fact, we are doing that. But let me just kind of bring it around, because what I find very interesting is none of the three of you are engineers, but you're leaders in tech. So, I think a lot of people see, I'm not here just about engineering. I'm here about McGill. I'm here about all our students from wherever they come from around the world, wherever they go. And our goal is to really create the maximum opportunity for them to thrive and make a difference in the world. And if there's one thing that I've seen is engineers have a kind of predisposition, of course, to technology. I think that's why they're with us. But we're very concerned that they may not fully understand the social and broader implications necessarily of their work. And then there's students in the humanities and social sciences who may feel that they don't have the vocabulary, the depth of understanding of what's happening in the tech world. And I just find it very interesting that the three of you, not coming from engineering, are in leadership positions in the tech industry itself. So it's a big question for you. It's not just about engineers. It's just, how do you break into the tech industry? Because you don't necessarily have what looks like the qualifications to naturally fit in that area.
And things have changed a lot in the last 20 years. So, I was a product manager, and then I became a very senior marketing leader. I ran marketing for search and all the marketplace businesses at Yahoo, for example. It was funny. At the same time, my husband was a CMO at Google. We had directly opposing jobs at the time. He had the better job. But I could break in because back in the 90s, when I got into tech, you didn't have to have a CS degree to become a product manager. And I have managed engineers for a very, very long time. And I am technical enough that I can problem solve and break down a spec and understand the constraints in order to understand how we might re-architect something. Like I'm not an engineer, but I know how to work closely with engineers. Now what I'm finding are a lot of engineers that are coming in, they actually have to know how to work with others who are not engineers in order to be able to have their voices heard. Because what's interesting, and it sometimes can be frustrating, is that it's not always the smartest person in the room whose voice is listened to. It's the person who actually can make the most compelling argument and build consensus and have followership. And I think that is something that when you're trying to break in, first of all, you have to have a really great idea. You have to have an enormous, the TAM, the total addressable market of your idea has to be huge. There's a specific way to break in to, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, to pitch ideas. There's actually a kind of deck, very special deck VCs like. If anybody wants it, ping me afterward. And then there's a different type of deck when you're trying to pitch ideas within an organization. I wrote about it in my book to get, not a secret, it's in there. It's a 10-step mini deck because a lot of people don't know how to be convincing in making their ideas, pushing their agendas forward. So I think getting into it, networking, Canadians are just so nice, but not always pushy enough. Network with everybody. You have to use your networks. I mean, Amin works for LinkedIn. It's the greatest networking resource ever. You just have to, get 100 people to say no to you after you've asked 1,000, and you'll have 900 who said yes. So I think the networking and getting out there and just being impervious to rejection and understanding it's going to be how you develop your ability to influence in the right places as you break through.
Okay, thank you. Amin, Martin, how would you like to respond to that? Or you have a different perspective?
No, I agree with Lorna. There's a saying around here, fake it till you make it. I think there's some truth to that. And underlying that truth is that, you have to be courageous and you have to be curious and you have to be creative. And if you've got those traits, then you can tackle almost anything. Like I was just thinking about this, I just fixed my garbage disposal, and that's thanks to YouTube. Right. So the information is at my fingertips. I just have to go out and find it. And that's the beauty of the world that we live in today. Information is a commodity. All of us can access that information and build on top of it. And that's why we are seeing such rapid innovation. And so you just need to have the chutzpah and like the will and the drive to learn things. And you can then become an expert and connect with people because of your curiosity. And what Lorna said is like absolutely accurate. You need to network. I didn't realize when I was at McGill that building a network was going to be an invaluable asset for me. But as I look back, almost every important career opportunity that I've had has been because of my network, both my personal and my professional network. And McGill, just by bringing together students from around the world with such intellect, I think that's a perfect place to start your network. And then you can amplify it with social networks like LinkedIn and Facebook and others. So that's my sentiment on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I can weigh in. I think we all have a similar, maybe similar theme with different ways of showing it or explaining it. I think the idea of ambition and really ambition for the right reasons. Lorna talked about that. Not taking no for an answer and just wanting to keep going. I mean, you mentioned this as well. I remember talking to someone, a venture capitalist in New York who's from Montreal, and we were talking a bit about innovation, the difference between the West Coast and Silicon Valley, and then New York, which has now become quite a sort of entrepreneurial city over the last 10 or so years, and how to do that in Montreal. And he talked about the 3 Bs, and he said that in Canada, entrepreneurs really are focused on the 3 Bs, which is selling out to be able to afford the BMW, the boat, and the beach house. And about the same time, I remember when Evan Spiegel declined a $3 billion offer to buy Snap at the time, and asked him, like, why didn't you sell? And he said, well, but then what? I'm 25. What would I do then? And the point was, like, I'm not doing this to make money and go and sit on a beach. I'm doing this because I want to change the world. And I think that ambition, it'd be great if McGill students, if Canadians, and everyone who goes there has that ambition to do something really special and change the world. Along the way, financial success is obviously a nice byproduct, but I think most people transforming the world aren't doing it just to make money. They could have stopped that a long time ago. Look at an Elon Musk or any of those kind of folks. They really want to change the world. I think the things that Lorna and Min are doing, and Sherry and others, it's the same way. And I think that's a really important concept. And also innovation. We talked a bit about this. It's not just software engineers focused on product innovation, but Jim, one of the things I think is important that I talk to my team about, strategy folks and finance folks and data analytics folks, is the idea of business model innovation. And so for some people wanting to go into tech, yes, of course, engineers, absolutely, all different types of engineers, UX and design and all sorts of things as well. But a lot of the real breakthroughs are business model innovation. How do you think about actually creating value? And that's where finance people and management people are there. We've talked about policy innovation. Amin's in the middle of all this. Like, how do you work with governments and understand how to ensure everything's safe and equitable and a fair playing field, but also able to do great things for users and and investors, physical and mental health innovation, treatment innovation. There's so many different elements of innovation that people who are ambitious and want to change the world can change it in their, in their sector, by understanding and embracing what technology can do on top of what, the all-important work that, of course, the engineers do to create the sort of pure tech innovation.
Okay. When you mentioned the 3 Bs, it brought to mind something that I just heard this afternoon from our chancellor, John McCall-McBain. He said, we were talking about how we as an institution, now entering into our third century, we really need to innovate as an institution too. I mean, we're a very classical institution built on essentially a model from the early church. And it's a new world, and we've learned a lot over the period of COVID, for better or worse. And it is a very new world. But he challenged us to, as he said it, to be bold, be better, and be soon. That we have to really pull it off, and we've got to do it in a hurry. We have to stay competitive. We have to stay out front. But to do that, we need to be bold, and we need to do it really well. And I'm quite convinced that we have the people to do that, and we will do that. But it presents challenges. When I hear all of you, and you describe this ability to work across disciplines, to be open to connecting with other people and working with them in teams. Sometimes I find that's easier said than done. And I'd like to hear from you if maybe within your own personal experiences within your businesses themselves, when you've taken people coming from different disciplines, how do you get them to work together effectively across these boundaries where people may not naturally have the language they need to not only connect, but to collaborate with each other?
I mean, I think there's so many things that you can do to help with that. It generally actually starts with the personal. It's not so much with the skills. So for example, we do something at Grokker. So every week at TGIT, which we do both in person now as well as remotely for folks who aren't at HQ. And you during the week can nominate someone for a high five. And that is someone who has done something to help you that week. And both the person who was the nominator as well as the nominee, right? The name goes on these high fives or the digital high fives. They all get sent centrally. And at the TGIT, they're all read out loud. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of them get picked. If I'm the one, if I actually happen to be there in person, I'll pick them. Otherwise, another executive staff member will do it. And they get coffee is like the most important thing to my team. So coffee cards to their favorites, Blue Bottle or, Pete's, whatever they love. Coffee cards are absolutely the currency of value. But it's that you are recognized for recognizing others. And so that's just one way where it's the culture that helps you help people work across teams. It's not, it has to be, a company is just a living organism. That's all it is. The people in it will do what they need to survive. So if the conditions for survival make it such that you are rewarded for collaboration and you are actually punished for not collaborating or for hindering others, then people will act accordingly. And then you need to have norms and practices and rewards to back that up. It's kind of that simple.
Okay. Wow. Ahmed, Martin, anything you want to add to that?
Sure.
How to create these conversations between disciplines? I mean, I hear it. The incentives need to be there. I hear it. I just wonder, are you already picking people who are predisposed to be able to do that, or whether there's something that you can actually wake up in those people to get them to work across these boundaries?
I think Lorna touched on it. She talked about building a culture and a set of values that everybody buys into. And that's how you get alignment around the business. And so for us, building out first principles for everything that we do, like what we all agree that our aims and targets are about. And then it leads to better decision making and people not working at cross purposes. So, to your question about having people from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different countries, etc. If you all agree on a common set of principles and culture and set of values, then your job becomes easier because you're all rowing in the right direction.
Okay. So
Yeah, I was gonna,
go ahead, Martin.
you kind of touched on something I was about to bring up. Which is, sounds like a sign of the times or whatever, but it's not, and that is diversity. And I think you mentioned that. I was just thinking about adding that on. Is just different perspectives, different professions, different capabilities, different skills, different backgrounds. And I think one of the things that I've noticed working in the Bay Area is in tech. I mean, everything really revolves around product, and decisions get made around product, especially someone who initially was hired to lead the strategy function. I realized very early on that all strategy gets done through product. But if you can show that you can be accretive and bring new ideas in a humble way so that you get invited in, have a seat at the table with the product VPs, and show that you can bring in the marketing perspectives and think about the value capture models, and think about what long-term investments will bring, and what competitors are doing, and what's coming out of China that may be important to keep an eye on, and so on. Then you find that people across the board will start to value the accretive, incremental, complementary perspectives. But it's really about I realized coming out of consulting too that you're never ever going to be the smartest person in the room ever. And it's kind of daunting at first, and then kind of cool. Like, you realize that every time you go into a room, there's someone there who is always going to be smarter. But then, okay, so how can you add something to that discussion? And invariably they, everyone will say, oh my goodness, no one ever said that before. No one could explain to me the Kwai's commerce products that they've launched in China, because I don't read Chinese, but someone on your team could. And so it really is about finding just the ways everyone's trying to add something to someone else and build off each other, and very humble enough and kind of intellectually curious enough, Lauren, I think, to recognize that value and want to integrate that and build on that. But a lot of it is just getting out there, networking internally as well. Inside a company, you have to network and have good relationships to be able to offer up your perspectives that are complementary.
Right. As somebody who has to go to McGill every day, I know what it's like to be in a room with people who are smarter than you. It's a little daunting, but it's very uplifting in a lot of ways. I agree. We're coming to the end of our session already. I can't believe how quickly this has gone. I'm going to close off with asking you, hopefully, a very quick answer to a double-barreled question that comes from one of our audience members, which is, what is the one thing that excites you most about the future of tech? And equally, what is the one thing that worries you most about the future of tech? Lorna, I'll turn it over to you first.
What worries me the most is the long-term implications of AI, hands down. And what excites me the most right now, I mean, I am giddy about what we're going to be able to do with crypto. There is, oh my God, programmable coins that are programmable and not just stored value. And I don't know how much you're all reading up on it, but my reading list is full of white papers, and it is exciting. Who the hell knows what's going to happen, but wow, it's disruptive.
Okay. Alan.
So I'm going to be, as I think about it, at the possibility of technology to lift so many more people out of poverty. I think there's just an incredible opportunity in front of us. And so that's what excites me a lot, just in terms of the standard of living for as many people as possible being increased by scalable technology. What scares me, in addition to the unintended consequences of technology, I also worry about the geopolitical forces at play, and how we're building perhaps a bipolar world, East and West, of tech superpowers. And so that's a little disconcerting to me. The future of the internet and the future of technology was based on a global model, which I still subscribe to.
And Martin, last word.
I think for me, it's the democratization of everything we do. I talked about creativity. I mean, crypto and so on fits into that as well in financial systems, but including how people can make a living, as I think maybe Amin was talking about, and democratizing the way that we can make a living, the creative economy, learning, education, skilling, etc. What worries me the most is the risk of applying legacy rules from obsolete industries to the policy and regulation that will come into play, really to try and keep power and protect the old guard. So as you democratize creativity, a lot of regulation, if you look at some of the things, what is it, Bill C10 or C130 or whatever, trying to sort of keep paying legacy media companies to make content that may or may not be relevant, rather than trying to embrace the democratization of what's happening. So I think that's where, policy innovation is something that would be incredible to come out of a place like McGill.
Thank you for all of this. I mean, your insights are wonderful. I wish, if we could continue for about another 38 hours, we would have enough to fill a 3-credit course for one semester. So maybe we can talk about that after. But it has been a really interesting conversation. I think we've just hit the tip of the iceberg here on a whole lot of topics that are really important for us to talk through. And I mean, we, in a sense, a larger community of alumni, our friends, our collaborators, our students and professors. So I really, really look forward to engaging all of you more, and of course, everybody in the audience more, in the kind of work we're undertaking at McGill. Again, our goal here is to do everything we can as a group to make much more possible than we could ever do apart. So on that note, I'll just thank all of you and hand it over to Sherry for the closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean Nysel, and thank you to Martin and Lorna and Amin for sharing your thought leadership with us today. I think we could have gone for several more hours. And I'm getting off this call and going to research crypto ASAP. Thank you, Lorna, for the nudge. What you heard today was this really powerful intersection of, leaders who are out there working in tech every day, faculty and our students on the line. And this is what I think what makes McGill magical, and what makes MGen, this alumni group that we're creating, so magical. We all got involved because we believe passionately that amazing leaders come from McGill, and we want to do our best to put McGill at the top of that podium in tech. Not just because we're proud, but because we know that McGill leaders come with the set of values that we've been talking about today, what makes people who are going to help solve the problems in technology and do it with humanity and heart and different perspectives. So we invite you to join us. So MGen is just spinning up. Like I said, we're a group of passionate alumni who give back to the university through thought leadership, mentorship, donating and working and creating forums like this to connect. So we hope you'll join us for a future conversation, maybe come on board. We give $1,000 per year. It goes to the university community, and we can decide how that gets spent. But the best part is working with the university leaders and with all the students to really start to make some inroads with McGill and tech here on the West Coast, and soon the world. We have big ambitions. So thank you again. Thank you to everybody who dialed in, to the students who dialed in. Thank you for joining us. I think you heard from everyone today about how powerful our McGill community and network is. Network. So make use of us. We're out here to support you. Good luck, everybody. And we hope to see you soon on another conversation. Thank you. Have a great evening.